Okay, I've been wanting to make this video for what feels like forever, and I kept putting it off. Not necessarily putting it off, just not finding the time to do it. But as you can tell, this 20-pound behemoth is not on this bike, but instead we have a Chinopovich, which is to say that it is a shitty Chinese Acropovich clone. Not necessarily a clone, but it, kind of copies the aesthetic of an Acropovich. Acropovich. However you say it. So yeah, so this is my 2007 FZ1, and I have a, not necessarily full exhaust, but from the header back exhaust, and I only paid 60. Am I backwards, or should I do it like? Anyway, 60 bucks. I paid 60 bucks plus tax, I think, because it's $19.99 for the mid pipe, and then $39.99 for the what do you call it, the muffler. So that plus tax, free shipping, because it was all Amazon. So basically, it's just a $20 mid pipe. So that's what you need to do. You need to type in FZ1 mid pipe. Click on that, and then you just need to type in 51 millimeter to 38 millimeter. There are different ways to do this. The best way would probably be just use a 51 millimeter exhaust. But I'll tell you what I did. So you just want a universal muffler. They make some ones that are actual carbon fiber. They're about $100. You can get those on eBay, and they actually say Yoshimura on it. It's not actually a Yoshimura exhaust. It's just a Chinese copy, an actual copy. But this is just a $40 muffler. It's really for like your dude who just bought his Ninja 300 or 400 and is like, bro, I gotta get an exhaust on here, dude. I gotta get a slip on. I just typed in universal motorcycle muffler. That's what popped up. It was $39.99. I think they have some that are cheaper. But anyways, let's talk about how I got that onto my FZ1. You got to take off the stock muffler, which is down here. You can't see it, it's out of frame. And that requires taking off the X-up cables. And I'll show you all how to do that now. Alright, so to get at the X-up valve, there's this little plate on there. And it is a I think it's a 5. Anyways, or Allen. It's a 5 metric Allen. To get the top one, you can use like just a regular old ratchet and Allen socket. For the bottom one, I had to use a 1/4 inch socket with a bit on a little 1/4 inch pry bar. It's just because it has the clearance right here. You could probably just use a bigger extension. I didn't have one with me and didn't feel like going and getting one, so that's why that's there. Now we have to undo these cables, so we can just slide the little booger right off. The two little cables. And then we'll be getting in the seat to get the solenoid moved. Okay, hey, you can see my mouth. Okay, my head. So it takes a 10 millimeter socket to get these nuts undone on the cables. And I couldn't get the little cables off the actual, like, switchy thingy, whatever you call it, the actuator. So I just unbolted the butterfly valve actuator, whatever you want to call it. It's a 10 millimeter socket. It needs a 10 millimeter wrench. So now you know. Now we take off the seat. All right, now we're at the under the seat. You pull this flap up, it reveals the old solenoid and eggs up thing, cables and all that stuff. I can't get at it without taking the battery out, which I'm not going to do. So we're going for the old 1/4 inch socket on a ratchet trick. It is a classic, and so far it has not failed me. Fuck. We need to go find places that you want to work on. Really nice. The high ratchets, so it's like the click together, so it's between the engage the user ratchet to do stuff. So if you want to take this out, you can. However, you will need a little thing to plug into the wiring harness, because otherwise the computer's going to be pissed at you, that your solenoid's malfunctioning. Which is really what we want. Hey look, Yamaha used a little zip tie, right? They used a little zip tie, but it's just a nice little one that you don't have to cut. It just undoes itself. How do I get these cables out? Okay. So I think it's exercise coolant, something fast. Yeah, it's for thing. If you come coolant. It will fast. It takes out. You see the game. There. Well, all the stuff on here. Look at it. There we go. And that's how you take off the exit valve. So, okay, we got the cables off the old Yamaha. I'm not going to keep any of this stuff, because I will keep the factory muffler, but I've got a mid-pipe that replaces the whole exit thing on the way Monday, and then it's got a muffler coming with it, which is at $60. It's $20 mid-pipe, $40 muffler. We'll be trying that out. I'm going to take stock exhaust off because I kind of want to hear it. I think it's going to sound mean as hell, so we're going to do that. It's just 2 bolts. My battery's about to die, so it's the little bolt right here on the clamp, and then the bolt that attaches it to the foot peg. Alright, my battery's going to die. I'm gone, guys. Bye. So if you're still here, the X-up cables are gone. Okay? Now, if you're a nuisance to society and very selfish, you can just run it without the huge muffler on there. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's just not right. And other people are gonna be like, I hate motorcyclists because they have such a lot of exhausts, you know. And it sounds poopy at idle. Do this. Pay $60 for some Chinese parts. I am a stingy bastard, so just pay $60 for a Chinese exhaust, and I'm gonna tell y'all how to install this right now. Okay, so when you get your muffler, that's this. This is all the stuff it comes with. It comes with this little coupler that lets you go to a smaller pipe. It comes with a bolt and a nut. I lost the bolt that came with it, but that's the nut. I had a bolt that just happened to fit it. It comes with these 2 springs. There's that holds the actual muffler. There's your mid pipe. So when you order your mid pipe, it'll come with this mid pipe and this what is it called? It's an exhaust clamp, but it's the same as a hose clamp. This is the only thing that does not come that you will need, and you can actually order something like this. It's called I think it's called a Z clamp. I'll throw up links for one. I made this one. You need just a bolt hole that's this big. I didn't have a drill bit that was that big, so I just routed it around on a. Actually, I do have a drill bit that's big, but I don't have a 1/2-inch drill for it. So I made this out of just some flat steel stock. So it's just a bracket. This is the nut that comes with your and the bolt. You'll have to. It's on the back of the exhaust. Where is it? It's spot welded onto the back of the exhaust. Oh, here, right here. So it's spot welded. That's a good thing I don't need that anymore. So it's spot welded right there. You'll just take some pliers and just, you know, pry it off, and then the nut will come free. So you actually have a nut and bolt already. Yeah. So that's all the stuff that you'll need for a $60 exhaust. And if you buy your own, I think it's $5, so $65. But it cost me $60, so I'm running with $60. And I'll go into more, but I actually had to modify the mid pipe. You can see I cut it. My face is not in the camera, but I promise you I'm still here. So I actually had to modify my mid-pipe. So that's how it came. It's like this. You can obviously see the difference in color. It's been through a couple heat cycles. I guess the idea is that you're supposed to just, because these did not come together, they're not a kit. I guess the idea is you're supposed to do this, but at this angle, it didn't matter how I mounted it, this wasn't turned to the right enough. So, how I had to do it was take the coupler that comes with them. They're not supposed to slide in all the way, just about like that, and if it does, you'll have to drill a hole right here and rivet it or something, or take a couple beads and pop them right there. So what I ended up doing was using this as kind of like a joint, and you will have to flare out the, if your mid pipe comes in and it fits for you, that's great. But if you have to do what I do, which is take a reciprocating saw that off, or an angle grinder cut off, and that's kind of what I did. And it does not leak, actually, which is kind of surprising. If it does, you can throw some RTV or take a lead gasket and pop it in there. So that's a solution if it does leak. Or hell, if it does leak, just leave it alone because it really doesn't sound that bad. The exhaust also came with these little tabs, but I didn't need them because they kind of work perfectly. So yeah, so yours may be easier to do than mine, and it may not. So that's why this coupler was important for me. What it's really meant for is so that you can take a smaller pipe, because this will fit over it, already. But it's meant for like a smaller pipe to just kind of push up against it like that. Because this is, like I said before, kind of for like a smaller bike, some goober who just got his first bike and doesn't want to spend a buttload of money on a slip-on like I didn't want to. It's basically just a regular old glass pack. I don't know if you can tell through the, but yeah, it's just a straight through. It does come with a baffle. I took the baffle out. I would not suggest running the baffle because this carbon fiber, it's just like a vinyl wrap, and if you can tell, they get really hot and they will start to discolor and look ugly. So I would not run the baffle all the time. If you run the baffle with it completely baffled, it's really quiet. So if you don't care how your muffler looks and you just want a quiet exhaust, run the baffle. For me, the only reason I didn't run the baffle is because it absolutely kills your mid-range power. And I'm sure it kills your top-end power too, but it definitely felt like I dropped a couple of horsepower with this thing, because I don't think this was intended for a 1000cc motorcycle. So it is what it is. So now we're gonna put everything together. So we'll get to that. Boom. Okay, I'm in the shop. So once you take your old exhaust off, you'll put on your mid pipe, which I have right here. And mine's been through a lot of heat cycles. Oh, also, I cannot express this enough. Not required, but will make it so much easier. This is basically WD-40, but it's silicon based, not diesel based. So it won't degrade like rubber or stuff like that. You can use WD-40. This is just what I happen to use. I have a can of WD-40, but I like the silicon better. It makes because these are pretty tight tolerances. It surprised me how tight the mid pipe was to go onto the actual factory header. So you are going to want to use some sort of lubricant to get the stuff to wiggle on there. And that is how you wrestle a mid-pipe onto your exhaust. And now we're going to slide our exhaust clamperoonie all the way down onto there. We're not going to tighten that sucker down because I already said earlier we got to hand fit some stuff. All right, next is our bracket. I don't know the measurements of this one because I didn't measure it, because it's really, the measurements aren't that important, and if you buy the Z bracket, it'll just work. So we're going to take our nut that came with the factory exhaust, our washer, and our bolt. And because I didn't have a big enough bit, as I stated earlier, I gotta kind of screw the bracket onto the bolt. Because $60 exhaust ain't ghetto unless you want it to be. Or unless you just can't make it not ghetto. Which apparently is me. I'm going to put the washer on the back. So I'm going to slide this through our factory exhaust hole. The little rubber mount. Right? And then I'm going to slide the washer onto the back of it. Okay. We're not going to tighten it up because we kind of need it loose. As we stated earlier. We need it loose. Okay. Next is the fun part. We're going to take this little booger. Now I did bend mine. I don't think you need to bend it, but you can. So if you can tell, it's kind of askew. See? So I did that because originally I didn't have the bracket, and without the bracket, it mounts funky. So we're going to take our bracket, we're going to wrap it around here. We're going to take one of our springs. In this case, it's my big stretched out spring. Yours won't be stretched out. And so we're going to take the spring and pop it. Can you see? Yeah, you can see. We'll pop it over that little booger right there. So it kind of holds it into place. And we don't have to put the clamp on yet. We can actually just do both the springs at the same time if you'd like. So there we go. Kind of like that. See? You can see why this one's stretched out. I don't think you're supposed to stretch them out, so don't try and do that. And then I'm going to pop this bolt on through here. Anyways, so now we're going to start tightening stuff up. Starting with our clamp that goes to the exhaust header manifold. Okay, well, I didn't get. Oh, my grandpa has walked into the garage, and he looks like he's getting something. What you getting, Paul? Paper towels. Letting out all my cold air. This isn't really a DIY on what exactly to do. This is kind of a guide on what you need to do, what you need to look for, what you need to do to figure it out on your own. So that's really important. Is you can, the old saying of give a man a fish, he eats for a day, feed a man a fish, he eats for a lifetime, or until there's no more fish. So I'm not really telling you exactly how to do this. I'm trying to teach you what you should do for something like this universal kind of parts that I've got going on here. So there you go. Now it's all tightened up, there's not as much play. So there you go. That's how you do a $60 exhaust. And I'm not just going to leave it off here, how to put the exhaust on. I'm going to let you hear what a Chinapovich on an FZ1 sounds like. Because of course I am. I guess that's all there is to do. So yeah, there you go. You're welcome. $60 FZ1 exhaust. This is not necessarily a cold start. Almost a cold start. Pretty close to a cold start. I'm deaf. Duck walk.